Our head of the intelligence community, Jim Clapper, has acknowledged that I think they underestimated what had been taking place in Syria.
I mean, he didn't just say that we underestimated ISIL. He said we overestimated the ability and the will of our allies, the Iraqi army, to fight.
That's true. Over the past couple of years, during the chaos of the Syrian civil war, where essentially you have huge swaths of the country that are completely ungoverned, they were able to reconstitute themselves and take advantage of that chaos and attract foreign fighters who believed in their jihadist nonsense.
That was President Obama yesterday admitting that the U.S. failed in its assessment of Islamic State. Still, the current efforts to degrade the militants is helping Kurdish separatists. We'll have that and more right here, right now on the News Hub. Good morning and welcome. I'm Simon Constable, and joining us now for more on that underassessment and what's going on with the Kurds is WSJ's Felicia Schwartz, joining us from Washington. Felicia, thanks for being there.
Hi, happy to be here.
Let's start with the underassessment of Islamic State or ISIS or whatever the various different names for this group are. Tell us more.
Sure. So I think Obama definitely acknowledged that Syria has become a safe haven for ISIS and the Nusra Front and essentially terrorist organizations that have been able to capture large swaths of territory in Iraq and Syria and, potentially have the capability to plan attacks against the West. I think this is a sentiment we had heard from the administration before, but this was a pretty, strong statement on Obama's part that they had misread the situation.
And also there were some comments in there about how our allies, notably the Iraq government and their army, had really not had the willingness nor the ability to fight these militants. Let's move on now to the Kurd situation. All this degrading of the oil assets of ISIS is actually helping the Kurds. Explain more.
Sure. So essentially, the strategy in Syria mainly has been to strike basically structures and infrastructure that helps ISIS derive revenue and power and control. So this weekend, that effort continued. They struck 4 modular oil refineries, and they had struck 12 earlier this week. And then they also, so what that does is it gives the troops on the ground, or I guess there's no link to the troops on the ground there, but there was a separate effort then as well by the U.S. military for the first time to conduct strikes in Kobani in support of Kurdish troops on the ground, which we had never seen before. So it's sort of the effort in Syria is mostly strategic, they've said, in the sense that it's targeting structures and command and control centers. But this weekend, for the first time, we saw U.S. military airstrike support of troops on the ground in Syria, of Kurdish troops on the ground.
And we're also seeing the training of some Kurdish troops as well. Notably, some have been sent to Germany to learn how to use equipment, technical, special, high-tech weapons. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I don't know a ton about that because that's not exactly what we've been covering here, but I do know that the U.S. is very strongly committed to supporting the troops on the ground. I mean, the big question mark in Syria, of course, is this training program that Congress has approved to the tune of $500 million. But of course, that effort, I think Chuck Hagel said earlier this week that the U.S. had sent advisors to Saudi Arabia to start planning that program, but it's going to take some time. And I know there's a lot of concern here in Washington and elsewhere, presumably, about what this ground effort is going to look like and will it work now that after this huge salvo of strikes, will there be forces on the ground who can hold territory and beat back ISIS?
Well, let's hope so. Thank you very much, WSJ's Felicia Schwartz. We appreciate your time.